2 county sheriffs, 12 other officers, all wearing badges, all sworn to uphold the law, and according to federal prosecutors, all allegedly escorting what they believed were cartel drug shipments through Mississippi and into Tennessee in exchange for thousands of dollars in bribes. But the cartel member paying them was not real. It was an undercover FBI agent, and every escort run, every bribe, every mile of Highway 61 they protected was being documented as evidence. This is the story of how federal investigators exposed 20 people, including 14 law enforcement officers, in one of the largest public corruption stings in Mississippi history. The Mississippi Delta, rural counties, small-town sheriff departments, communities where everyone knows the sheriff's name, where a patrol car in the driveway means safety, where the badge represents trust. But according to the indictments unsealed on October 30th, 2025, that trust was allegedly being sold, and the price was as high as $37,000 for a single escort run. Federal public corruption investigators had received intelligence about potential law enforcement involvement in drug trafficking along the Mississippi to Tennessee corridor, Highway 61, a major north-south route, perfect for moving shipments from the Gulf Coast region toward Memphis and beyond. Rumors suggested certain officers were providing more than just turning a blind eye. They were allegedly providing armed escort, protection, safe passage, but proving it required more than rumors. It required evidence, recorded transactions, documented bribes, and that meant going undercover. An FBI agent was tasked with posing as a member of a Mexican drug cartel. The role required building credibility, making contact with people who might connect to corrupt officers, offering money in exchange for protection, and waiting to see who would take the bait. The operation began carefully, with initial condas and efforts to feel out who might be willing to cross the line. According to officials, the response was shocking. Not 1 or 2 officers, 14 including 2 county sheriffs. People in positions of significant authority allegedly agreed to use their badges to protect what they believed were cartel operations. The alleged arrangement was straightforward. The undercover agent, posing as a cartel operative, would pay officers to provide armed escort for vehicles believed to contain narcotics or drug proceeds. The officers would use their patrol vehicles, their lights, and their authority. They would ensure the shipment moved safely through their jurisdictions and into Memphis, Tennessee. No interference, no inspections, complete protection. And the bribes were significant. According to the indictments, amounts reached as high as $20,000 for some escort runs. One payment allegedly totaled $37,000. Cash handed directly to officers who then allegedly used their positions to ensure safe passage for what they believed were 25 kilograms of cocaine, that is 55 pounds of narcotics they thought they were protecting. But that was only the first escort. The undercover operation continued. Multiple runs, multiple payments, each one building the case. Federal investigators documented everything. The routes, the vehicles, the officers involved, the money changing hands. And according to prosecutors, 19 of the 20 people eventually indicted were also charged with federal firearms violations for carrying weapons during what they believed were drug trafficking operations. And that is where the undercover operations got smarter. It was not just about catching officers taking bribes once, it was about establishing a pattern, proving conspiracy, showing that this was not a single mistake but an ongoing operation. Multiple escorts meant multiple opportunities for evidence. Multiple payments meant undeniable proof of intent. What the officers did not realize was that every mile was being documented. Surveillance teams tracked the escort vehicles. Recording devices captured conversations. Financial investigators followed the money. And with each run, the case against them grew stronger. One sheriff allegedly went even further. According to the indictments, he attempted to disguise the bribe payments as campaign contributions. Money that should have been reported as required by law was allegedly hidden. It was an attempt to launder corruption through this political process. But financial forensics exposed the scheme. The money trail did not match legitimate campaign activity. The timing aligned with escort runs. The amounts corresponded to bribe payments documented by the undercover agent. The money was the bait, but the real trap was the paperwork. Every financial transaction leaves traces. Every attempt to hide bribes creates more evidence. Federal investigators specialize in following money. They know what legitimate payments look like. They know how corruption tries to disguise itself. According to prosecutors, this case had all the hallmarks. By late 2025, federal prosecutors had what they needed. Grand juries reviewed the evidence. Indictments were prepared, and on October 30th, 20 people were charged. 14 were current or former law enforcement officers, and 2 were county sheriffs. All were accused of participating in a bribery and corruption scheme involving what they believed were cartel drug shipments. The arrests followed. Federal agents executed warrants. Officers who had worn badges were now in handcuffs. Sheriffs who had run departments were now defendants in federal court. The communities they served watched in shock as the people who were supposed to protect them were led away in custody. Officials held a press conference. The details were devastating. There were multiple escort runs and thousands of dollars in bribes. Highway 61 from Mississippi Delta counties into Memphis had been used as a protected corridor for what the officers believed were narcotic shipments. All of it was documented by federal investigators who had built the case over months. But then the indictment revealed something that changed the whole case. According to officials, investigators found no evidence of actual cartel connections beyond the undercover operation itself. These officers were not being recruited by real cartels. They were allegedly willing participants who agreed to provide criminal service when offered money. The corruption was homegrown. The willingness to betray their oaths was internal. They did not need external pressure. They needed only opportunity and payment. For the communities in the Mississippi Delta, the revelations were crushing. These were elected sheriffs and trusted officers, people who had taken oaths to serve and protect. According to federal prosecutors, they allegedly used their positions to facilitate what they believed was drug trafficking, the very crimes they were supposed to prevent. The legal consequences are severe. Federal charges include bribery, conspiracy, and firearms violations related to drug trafficking. If convicted, these defendants face significant federal prison time. For the sheriffs, the political careers they built are over, badges surrendered, authority revoked, reputations destroyed. The undercover FBI agent who posed as the cartel member deserves recognition. He played that role for months, building trust with corrupt officers and documenting evidence while maintaining cover. One mistake could have compromised the entire operation, but the agent executed flawlessly, and the result is 20 indictments. Federal public corruption investigators demonstrated what patience achieves. They did not rush. They built the case, escort run by escort run, payment by payment. They documented everything, and when they finally moved, the evidence was overwhelming. For honest law enforcement officers in Mississippi, this case is both vindication and embarrassment. Vindication because it proves the system can police itself, that federal oversight catches corruption even at the sheriff level. Embarrassment because 14 officers allegedly betrayed everything the badge represents. The investigation continues. Federal prosecutors are reviewing whether any actual drug shipments were protected before the undercover operation began, whether these officers had been providing similar services to real criminal organizations, and whether the corruption extended beyond what the sting documented. Those answers will emerge during prosecution or plea negotiations. The alleged scheme was brazen. Officers used patrol vehicles with lights and sirens to escort what they believed were cartel drugs, accepted tens of thousands of dollars in bribes, attempted to disguise payments as campaign contributions, and operated openly on public highways. The confidence it took to allegedly do this suggests they believed they were untouchable. They were wrong. Highway 61 is now under scrutiny. Federal law enforcement has increased oversight, checkpoints are more thorough, and any officer who might have considered similar corruption now knows that federal investigators are watching. Undercover operations can expose even sheriffs. The system has mechanisms to root out betrayal. 20 people were indicted. 14 of them are law enforcement, and 2 of them are county sheriffs. All are accused of using their badges to protect what they believe were cartel operations. The scale of alleged corruption is staggering, but the effectiveness of the federal response is equally significant. Should undercover corruption stings be used more often to clean up local law enforcement? Hit the like button now if you believe accountability matters at every level. Subscribe to Justice Chronicles for stories of how federal oversight catches corruption even in small-town sheriff departments. Comment Justice if you support the investigators who spent months building this case. Because when officers allegedly betray their oaths for money, there are still federal agents running undercover operations, documenting evidence, and ensuring that corruption has consequences no matter how high the badge.